Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week of intense top split racing action in the one and only official iRacing series known as the CONSPIT GTE Sprint Series, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. Today marks another Friday. We are into week number 7 and we've made our way from the United States of America to the one and only Portuguese circuit, known in full by its local name as the Autódromo International do Algarve, also known in English as the Algarve International Circuit, or much more colloquially referred to as the Portimão circuit in relation to the city with which it sits within the perimeter of. It is a circuit that is much loved for its wide array of corners, and add to that as well its rather intensive straights, plus multiple elevation changes intermixed amongst all of it, and it means it's a true driver's testing circuit when it comes to seeing just how strong your abilities are in your chosen choice of car. Which thankfully, given this is the GT Endurance Series, or the GTE Class Series, it does mean that we've got 5 choices of car, and we'll look forward to seeing exactly how our drivers master their machines as they go racing today. As we welcome you all to this broadcast live from circuit side, you're tuning in right now on YouTube at youtube.com, searching for TX141TX, and well, where are my manners? Allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And for tonight's schedule, as always, with qualifying underway currently, we've got our race upcoming, and it's not too far away. In about 4 minutes' time, we'll be making our way to the grid for what will be our 45-minute sprint race, and that will be at 7:10 this evening. Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time. As our drivers get set and are currently in qualifying, well, let's give you a recap of what has been the season so far and what we've still got lying in wait. Because we've made our way over the halfway point, we're into the second half of season 1 of the 2025 schedule. And as we can see, last time out we were at the Watkins Glen International Circuit, and there in the state of New York, we got to see plenty of fireworks fly with an absolutely dominant drive from our Danish driver of Sanson Jensen, who absolutely roared off into the distance and left everyone lying in his wake. Could it be a different story today, given the fact that the Algarve International Circuit has proven less popular compared to the Watkins Glen International Circuit, and we do have the best part of where it's 18 drivers on the grid today, currently in qualifying, and I can tell you many of them are new names who we haven't covered in the top split broadcast over the last couple of weeks. Will some new blood mix it up? That will be the big question that will be on the minds of many. We're going to find out. But let's talk a little bit about our circuit then. Well, it's the Grand Prix round of the Algarve International Circuit, located in the city limits of Portimão, in the district of Faro, in the Algarve region in southern Portugal, and it is a circuit like no other when it comes to that blending of a whole mixture of elevation changes, hairpins, sweepers, and straights, you name it, it's got a little bit of everything, and this 2.85 mile course is an absolutely brilliant combination, which has played host to many a multitude of class racing, whether it be from what will be Formula 1 all the way through to GTEs in real life, and we're seeing them here today. But as I try to get ready to go racing, and thank you of course to iRacing for the brilliant simulator and the trackman that comes with it, well, as we do come on to the race rules, as we can see setup wise, as per usual, it's open setups with fuel loads restricted to 50%. That will mandate a pit stop for fuel over the course of the race distance. As for the race itself, the grid shall be set by the closed qualifying session, which is currently ongoing, and it will begin via a rolling start when we do go racing. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 16 or more instant points, and if they go all the way to 25, it will be a disqualification from the race. Well, that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing, and so are we. And well, let's head back to circuit side, and as we do, one of our many drivers out there at the moment in the form here of none other than Peter Flanner, and as he makes his way on around there in the Porsche 911. As you can see in the top left corner of your screen, above the time tower, strength of field for this week a bit less than what we've previously seen in the last couple of weeks, whereas previously we've had strength of fields in the region of 3k. We're down to 2.3k today, and as we mentioned earlier, this Portimão circuit hasn't proven to be as popular as perhaps it would be for others, but the flip side of the coin of course being and the fact that whilst it may be low in popularity, it could definitely be a circuit that's going to serve up some brilliant racing action in the fair, and we have some drivers who are going to be absolutely dedicated to the cause and giving it everything in order to go battling. But we will have to wait and see who's going to be the one who's the fastest out there, as right now it does look to be none other than Alexander Nicholas, who is absolutely flying and the best part of half a second clear of anybody else out there. And well, our drivers putting in their final qualifying laps, given they have an allotted number of laps, they've got 8 minutes to set their laps, at which point when we do see the clock strike 8 minutes, that's it, no overtime available to you. You do have to essentially come into the pits, and whatever lap you set prior to that, that is where you're going to be starting from. And well, therefore it looks like Nicholas right now absolutely delivering at the top end of the spectrum. But meanwhile, elsewhere we do have some drivers still on laps further down the order, including Thomas Cochet, and as we do see the Corvette C8R driver making his way up the run there and all the way through into what will be turn, I do believe that's turn number 9 into 10, that double right-hander, which is all about braking for the second of the corners, as he now sweeps his way up into turn number number 11 and 12 will definitely a very changing sequence of corners. You can imagine in qualifying, they can absolutely abuse the tyres, but when they do go racing, they may have to do a little bit of work to conserve those tyres in order to keep their hopes alive of having plenty of rubber to get to the end. But those last qualifying laps are coming in, and where will we see Corchet make his way on the grid? Will he stay P6 or will he make his way a little bit further? As in fact, we do have a 14 driver grid for this top split today. Not quite 17 or 18 as we approximated earlier, and it does look as though some drivers in the end opted to spectate rather than race, as we do see Corchet making his way across the line. And well, is he going to improve from what was 1.8 seconds off the pole? No, not quite. It looks as though Nicholas is going to be safe at the top, and our last driver to come on through the final corner to complete this qualifying session, where he won't be able to do it, I do believe, because he was on a cool-down lap. So that's qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and well, we're going to be heading to the grid and seeing how all the drivers are going to be lining up for today's race. As they make the way onto the grid, this is how they're going to line up for what is our top split broadcast for week number 7 of 2025, season 1 of the GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT, hosted on iRacing. It's Alexandre Nicholas who's taken pole position by 6/10 in the end over Francis Seldorf. We can then see on what is row number 2, Axel Bergerman and Peter Flanner, the California driver. They're doing an absolutely solid job to put himself on the second row, ahead of what is the community manager, an absolutely special guest on the grid today, starting P5, Michael Matthias, and he'll be started there at the company of Thomas Corchet, the Frenchman, who'll be looking to go toe-to-toe at the two of them. We could expect some fireworks between them. We then do have David Kessler starting P7 ahead of William Morris on row number 4, and on the what is the completion of the top 10 of row 5, it's Colton Edwards and Andre Viella. We then do see a bit further down the order starting P11 Besteres Xavier San Juan, and then we do have P12 Mario Martinez, and then on the final row of the grid, only 40 drives, 7 rows today, we have Frederick Bestendorf and Jon-Yves Acusias. And well, that is going to be your starting order for today, ladies and gentlemen. We've still got a minute before our drivers will be getting underway on the formation lap, but 14 drivers here today, and we're in quite the wide array in terms of lap times. Indeed, definitely with a smaller number of drivers participating and no splitting of all the entrants. This is only one split today, the sole top split. It does mean we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers with a whole variety of I ratings, but that could also serve to mix it up, and we could see some drivers perhaps with lower I ratings perhaps have a greater opportunity to go all in for victory, or at least what they'll feel like is a victory, even if it's not on the top step of the podium. Well, as we're waiting for the last couple of drivers to get into position, we're waiting in particular for Alexandre Nicholas at the moment, and indeed our driver who'll be starting on the left of the front row there, and we'll feel he's on the right hand side of the circuit when he does go racing. Well, everyone just waiting to go now, and we've only got 10 seconds, so hopefully we do see Nicholas make his way in to the starting order. Otherwise he's going to be starting from the pit lane when we do go racing, and in fact I think he might be starting from the pit lane, so it will be, in fact no, he just makes his way to the grid on time, or does he? And well, he doesn't. In fact, he will be starting from the pit lane, I believe, Alexandre Nicholas, so he's going to be going from the back of the grid to try and do a last to first challenge. And well, as our drivers now pull away on the formation lap, it'll be to Francis Seldorf who will be taken away, and meanwhile Axel Bergerman will be promoted onto that front row. So everyone on the right hand side of the grid will get a free promotion in terms of how they're going to start in this running order. And well, that is a surprise, but then again it's going to make it even more interesting as the field begins to peel away here, and that wonderful roar of what is 8-cylinder and 6-cylinder machinery. Well, 6 cylinders if you are looking at the Porsches, but otherwise you are looking at 8 cylinders for the rest of the machines, if my memory serves me correctly. And as the drivers all make the way on away, one thing that's notable today as well, we only have 3 of our 5 available machines. We don't have any BMW M8s, nor do we have any of what are the Ford GTs. We've got a couple of Ferraris in the form of Andre Villa, and also we do have Jon-Yves Acusilas, and then we do see as he makes his way through. Those are the 2 Ferrari 488s, and we also have always a plentiful handful of Porsches, and we'll just give you one example. We have Michael Matthias here as he makes his way on around, and well, of course, in the company of Peter Flanner and also Axel Bergerman. But in particular, most importantly, immediately to Matthias will be the Corvette of Thomas Corchet, and the Frenchman there in the Corvette C8R. Well, we've got 3 Corvettes here, and it's Corchet, Morris and Kessler, and well, not as much car variety as we've seen in previous weeks, but to be fair, this is one of those circuits where having a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car is definitely going to give you a lot of rotation. What I've been able to discern down in what has been the official community Discord, the official community Discord over the course of the build-up to what has been this top split broadcast, whilst the Corvette has proven once again to be the strongest car over the distance, it just seems to have the better tyre life compared to its peers. The one thing that the Ferrari has going for it, as we see Acusilas here making his way on around, is the fact this Ferrari has a lot of rotation built into it, and as long as you can manage those tyre temperatures, you may find yourself springing out the corners a bit more aggressively compared to your rivals, and that could do well. But as we said, the thing with this Ferrari is the fact that once its tyre temperatures get a little bit too high, it really begins to struggle over the distance, and that will be on the minds of our drivers in the Ferrari, and the fact they won't want to let things get too hot. As we see one driver going very wide there, Frederik Bressendorf, and I think might be getting a little bit too eager on the throttle pedal and perhaps having to understeer it out into the gravel in order to get himself comfortably back on the circuit. But they're a little bit eager, it would seem, to go racing in the number 13, but who can blame them, as we've also got a car there coming to start. In fact, I think Matthias has had to pull out there. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Michael Matthias, but the car's come to a stop, and we briefly saw it there. It's been towed to the pit lane, so a few drivers already opted, I think, to essentially try and resolve some technical issues that they may have experienced. Oh, well, it's the fact that Nicholas started from the pit lane and Matthias will have to wait and find out what exactly is going to happen to him when we do go racing. But as all the drivers now begin to make their way into the final few quarters, coming up into turn number 13 here, making their way through the left-hand hairpin, and then it'll be the switch back to Sagres at turn number 14, and then it's all the way through Galp. We look to the front of the field, and it will be to Francis Sildorf, who will take us away for what will be our race of today. Albeit he'll look to try and back himself off shortly from what will be the pace car, and when he does so, that's when we will see the green flag racing. Seldorf keeping it quite close to the pace car there, so it's going to be a very quick run to the start. It looks like the whole field grouping up behind Seldorf here, knowing that things are going to get very eager, could get quite messy down to turn one. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the pace car's in. And it's lights out and away we go for the Week 7 race here in the top split at Portimão. And as Seldorf gets a good run off the line, our drivers are all the way down. But look at Bergerman, look at Flanner, both looking left and right here. It's going to be Seldorf who's going to put the car in the middle of the road. And as they make their way into the braking zone, all the drivers come charge on through the two Porsches side by side as they roar the way through turns 1 and 2. It's a clean start from the front of the field as the rest of the field makes its way through a big lock up there. Was that Colchet going deep? Yes, it was. Caught the car on the front right brake, managed to stop it in time. And there's a bit of contact there to David Kessler. And Kessler losing out as he made his way out to turn 3 and 4. Now they make their way down towards the hairpin at turn number 5, and as they roar their way down, well, Kessler's now got a lot of pressure going. Now that's going to be Morris up the inside in what is the yellow-green Corvette on the inside of the official GTE Corvette colours there, the all-yellow machine from Pratt & Miller Motorsport. And as they come out to turn 5 in towards 6, well, the field's going to settle down for a brief mode, albeit there's a long way to go here as now tries to look to try and close down the gap. And you can see Verbat there, Akuzelas chasing after Bressendorf, and these two will get very tasty in the formation lap, and will right now just settling down into a pace. But as we look for the back of the field towards the front of it, and I can tell you that Nicholas and Matthias have both left the pit lane, so they decided to both go for pit lane starts, and therefore they will be listed as a lap down on your timing screen on the left hand side. But once we get to the end of this open lap, they will be updated to be on the same lap as what will be all the rest of the field. It's just a glitch in our timing tower. Well, right now you can see just how the fact that Flanner is holding up Begerman a little bit, as Sildorf seems to be starting to find himself into a little bit of early momentum. But this is lap 1, and it does mean that our drivers right now need to try and get those tyre temperatures up to speed, as we've had a bit of an incident, I believe, or a swap of positions between San Juan and Akuzelas. Akuzelas actually getting ahead of Bressendorf, so that's been the change there. Apologies, we thought there was a little altercation between San Juan and Akuzelas, but not quite. But meanwhile, the drivers make the way to the end of lap number 1 and roar the way across, where it's Francis Sildorf who leads ahead of Peter Flanner. Then it's Axel Begerman in P3. 3 Porsches leading the way. Thomas Corchet in P4, the leading Corvette, ahead of Colton Edwards. We then have William Morris, David Kessler, Andre Villa, the sole Ferrari inside the top 10, who's there in P8, and then Mario Gonzalez Martinez and Xavier San Juan complete the top 10 with what is Frederik Bressendorf P11, best to rest, and Jon Viz Akuzelas P12, and try to go hunting here, as there you can see the move being looked up the inside there, and that is Alexander Nicholas, who's being listed as a lap down, but he's definitely on the lead lap as I'm to understand it, as they make the way on around. And well, that's the move already being made there by Nicholas to gain 1 place, Alexandra, and now he'll be looking to try and gain plenty more as Michael Matthias, meanwhile also giving chase as they make the way down. But you can see Bressendorf already stepping aside and letting the man who put the car on pole through, and Matthias up the inside there and looking to make some quick progress very early indeed. But as he comes out of turn number 5, well, right now they'll be chasing after what will be Bressendorf, and then, well, in fact, we chasing after Martinez next, who is running in P9. And well, as they do, well, meanwhile, speaking of Martinez, we've had a bit of a moment. Oh, goodness me, over the hill, and well, that's San Juan who's made his way up the road, but Villela has not had a good run all the way through what has been the S sequence there, and I believe that was coming out of turns 8 into 9. Couldn't quite see what happened. We will get a replay of that in short order, but meanwhile, looking back towards the front of the field, all the drivers continue to push on, and Flanner right now still keeping Begerman behind, but you can see how Seldorf is starting to pull away. Gap has doubled now at the end of this lap as they make the way through the final corner, and now for Begerman, I think it's going to be a question of when he can try and look for the pass, if he can get close enough. And Begerman is absolutely going to need to push hard, but we know he's no stranger to these situations as we ride on board here where the man is absolutely attacking, and our time tower begins to update itself to fit everybody into the running order as they make the way down. But you're right on board with your P3 driver here of Axel Begerman as he looks to try and make a bit of a run wide there from Flanner as he head into turn 1, and well catching the car now as they go onto the brakes. Begerman gets very close there, gets very tasty under braking. I think he feels like he might be able to make some further progress here, but will he be able to? That's going to be the challenge, and the answer is no, as he has a bit of wheel spin there coming out of 3 over the crest of 4, but then the dirty air as well will upset the front end of the car, and that will cause Begerman to have to simply point the car straight. Oh no, my good lord, it goes very, very long in the tooth down the brake, and of course Cher makes his way out the inside. I think Begerman deciding rather than lock the front brakes up, just get off the brakes, do a bit of human ABS, and then let the car roll deep. You can see Cochet taking the place. And Thomas Cochet right now under pressure here to hold on to P3 as Colton Edwards on the back of this, and also William Morris as we say hello in the YouTube chat there to Chris Lambert, who's cheering on none other than Peter Flanner. And Flanner just now opportunity arising to break away here as they make the way up into what is turns 9 and 10. But as they make the way over the crest, meanwhile we look back to Villela as he heads out of what is turn number 7 in towards 8, 9 and 10. He goes in that Ferrari chasing after Michael Matthias, has recently made the move for position, and the all-white Ferrari there right now watching the rear end of that Porsche and looking for an opportunity to try and make a little bit more headway later on. But then again, it's a long distance. 45 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but it will feel like a long time until they get to that pit stop, and then suddenly time will turn. But speaking of tides turning, as we can see here, Thomas Cochet running in P3 still as he makes way to turn number 15 through the right-hander, while Edwards and Begerman are queuing up behind as we ride aboard, looking back from the rear of this leading Corvette in P3. But here comes the Porsche of Begerman as it looks to go around the outside. It's going to be a drag race all the way down towards turn number 1, and meanwhile Flann and Seldorf being able to run away, but it's too wide there into the braking zone, and then Cochet lets it go. Begerman goes all in, and well, when you're on that inside line, it's going to be hard, but Colton Edwards tries to squeeze his way through into 2. It's not happening, and now Edwards has got Morris behind as they come through the right-hander of 3 and up into 4. Brilliant racing between these guys as they roar their way onto another lap, and we'll come it on through here to go on to lap what is number 4 as listed. We can see there, oh goodness me, get very, very tasty. Cochet defending as hard as possible, not wanting to let these Porsches on through, and I think Cochet opting to invest in the longer term here, which is if he can keep his rivals behind him at least the pit stop, he'll have the better tyres into the second part of the race, albeit we'll have to wait and see how much he can protect the car as he makes his way on the S sequence now and curving his way all the way through to the second half of the lap. But William Morris closed up and a bit further back. The man who started from the pit lane, having put the car on pole, well, he's going for that last to first change, and Alexandre Nicolas right now already up into P8 and recently passed Mario Gonzalez Martinez, who he's already dropped to the best part of 2 seconds behind. So Nicolas right now absolutely flying and lapping the best part of what's been a second to 2 seconds faster than his peers around him. The only driver who he's being matched by right now is the race leader Francis Seldorf, but Seldorf having nobody in his way to talk about, and when you can imagine therefore when we would be to potentially see what would be Nicolas get some clear room of circuit, could we see him close down that gap to the race leader quite rapidly? But coming back to the battle here for 4th place, and this is between Cochet, Edwards and Morris. Well, the leading Corvette right now under a lot of pressure from Edwards as Edwards gets in the tow once again, coming out of the corner. Look at the difference in the line. Edwards there just letting the car roll out wide, not putting as much steering in compared to the Corvette, and I get the feeling that Cochet right now might be under a lot of pressure here just to try and hold on. It doesn't look to be a forthcoming to him. Edwards thinks about the move but decides against it, not as comfortable into that turn 1 braking zone compared to Axel Begerman, who we saw only moments ago go all in on the brakes into the turn 1 apex. And will these drivers stay as they were? Meanwhile, looking a bit further back and move up the inside here. This is going to be for P11, but for Villela versus 1, and as he comes on through, takes the place of San Juan and makes the progress down to P11 does the Ferrari driver, and well, he rolls on through it. A lovely move there from what was the number 12 driver, and it looks as though this time he's got the deal done, and now we'll go chasing after Michael Matthias, who seems to have hit a little bit of a wall since making his way into P10. He he is closing down Gonzalez Martinez, but not at a rapid rate of knots, and a bit of a lock up there on the front left brake for Matthias, and that is definitely going to hurt him if he continues to do that, albeit once or twice you can get away with it, but if you keep doing it multiple times you end up overheating the brakes, you overheat the tyres, and once the tyres are out of their operating window in terms of temperature, particularly if they overheat, they are an absolute nightmare to cool down unless you can spend multiple laps running at a significantly slower pace. But of course, when you're racing at this level, you don't want to be running off the pace where possible unless you're doing it for strategy reasons such as to try and save fuel. But as we look to Colton Edwards still between the two Corvettes of Corchet and Morris, and the leaders are pulling off into the distance. And speaking of your leader, I already talked about it for a little bit. Here is none other than Francis Seldorf, who is continuing to roar away, and those lap times forthcoming for him. Best part of 2.2 seconds now, ahead of Peter Flanner as he comes across the line. There's Flanner in the rear of the picture, but Seldorf absolutely roaring away as we hear the lovely roar of that six-cylinder Porsche engine as they come across the line. Flanner putting in the personal best, almost matching the time of Seldorf to a 10th, and then further back, well, the three-way battle for P4 just continues to stay stationary, but all the way back onto the start-finish straight. We had a change for P9. Matthias now up into P9 ahead of Gonzalez Martinez, and well, as he makes his way across the line, we take a look back at exactly how Michael Matthias made the move. Well, here's a quick replay, and this was into the braking zone, for turn number 13, and in the end a mistake for Martinez just enabled Matthias to get up the inside nice and easy, no threat of a counter-attack, make the way down through the right-hander at turn number 14, and the job was done for Michael Matthias. We're returning to your live racing pitches, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do, we look to David Kessler, who's under pressure from Alexandre Nicolas, and Nicolas, who's continued to try and make more headway here, and started from the pit lane, was a rolling down in towards the double right complex of what is turn 7 and 8, coming out of Samson Corner as it's known. Well, Nicolas all over the back, gets a bit too close, and very eager on the throttle pedal, and Kessler there holds his ground. Nicolas not too happy about that, and I think right now Nicolas is getting a little bit of a moment where he just wants to get on through, and in the end, Kessler just completely opens the door there, going over the crest into turns 10 and 11 at Portimão corner, and lets Nicolas go. Well, Nicolas knows where he wants to be, but I think he's got to just temper his expectations with regards to his rivals around him and expect that perhaps some of his rivals are running a couple of seconds a lap slower pace, not because they're choosing to, but that's because the pace they've got. Nicolas is flying out there, but if he flies too high, much like Icarus, he may fall short of the sun and fall down before he gets that finish line. But as he comes up the rise in towards what will be at turns 14 and 15, well, that's another change of position now up to P7, more to go, and as he rolls his way over through, well, meanwhile we look back to P4, and still the fight for P4, P5 between Corchet and Edwards, as it looks like Morris has started to fall off of this battle. I think Morris might have just decided, you know what, it's not worth me staying too close, I'm only overheating the front end of the car. And well, if you are in William Morris's shoes right now, you do have one strategic fault you can apply here, which is that if he stays behind this group, doesn't get too close to them in order to save the front tyre temperatures, but manages to stay within 1 to 2 seconds and instead saves fuel by doing so. So if he turns his pace down, if he feels confident in doing that, what he could do is save a couple of litres of fuel, and those couple of litres could put him ahead of his rivals. Presumably they all have the equal pit stop in terms of how long it takes them to get to and out of their box, but it could be that Morris is able to leapfrog on strategy. And at Watkins Glen, we did see a number of drivers opt to go with that approach of just simply making up the places in the pits rather than making them on circuit. And it led to some absolutely brilliant battling towards the end of the race at Watkins Glen, but right now things do seem to be calming down in terms of tempo, and the two rivals are close together on circuit, Corchet and Edwards, as they roar their way in towards turn 10 and 11. But coming out of Portimão corner, well, Edwards right now still there, still on the hunt as we ride on board with Edwards, and as he makes his way out through the corners. The last lap there being a 39.933 compared to his best of 39.905. It may be early days in the race, but some very steady pace and consistent pace being displayed by the number 5 driver, who's gained the best part of 4 places since the start, and will be looking to try and hold on to those gains and make some more as Corchet continues to just try and run off into the distance a little bit. But notice there as well, having to slightly lift off over the rise for Edwards due to the dirty air to make sure the rear didn't cut loose of the cart and the front didn't want to pull straight on. And as he makes his way across that timeline, well, Colton Edwards right now still on the hunt. Lap time similar, albeit 3/10 slower that lap compared to Corchet, so the gap opening up a little bit as Edwards just pushed a little bit too hard early on and perhaps now settling down. Well, as we make our way into what's the 13th minute, that's the big question. And we do have a growing question here over the lead battle, as we do see our leader, Francis Seldorf, make his way down towards turn number 5. Now, for the eagle-eyed of you, you may have noticed that the gap between Seldorf and Flanner, which was 3 laps ago 2.2 seconds, has actually come down to 1.8 seconds on average, So Flana does seem to be starting to up the pace slightly and trying to close down Seldorf, only be it by what is tenths or two a lap, but that gap is falling down, and Flana right now might be starting to really open the taps here, and perhaps he's decided, right, I've got the car in the zone, I've been able to clear my rivals behind, and therefore I can now push a little bit. Alternatively, think about getting close enough to put mental pressure on Seldorf, and then go into a more strategic mindset, which is if I can keep the gap at a second or 1.5 seconds, I can always do it later in the race. But hold the thought here, as we've had a big speed for what was our P13, dry now P14 of Friedrich Bressendorf. What exactly happened to the number 13? Well, let's take a look back and find out. Well, here's a replay to show what happened to Bressendorf, and this was the run down towards turn number 5. Hard on the brakes here, comes in quite eager. Front left locks up as he tries to get the power down, just a little bit too eager for the throttle, too much steering lock, and the two combine together to send the car around. A very tail-happy Porsche, and, well, go for that spin, and he'll learn from it, no doubt about it. But as we return to live racing pictures, well, Bressendorf drops down to P14, and, well, in terms of status update on our driver who started for the pit lane of Alexandre Nicolas, as he heads across that timeline now to lap number 9, roaring his way on down. Well, currently 11 seconds off the leader, still lapping in the mid-39s. He has cleared Kessler, and, well, we saw him clear Kessler into Portimão corner. The two of them having a bit of an altercation, and in the end, Kessler decided he didn't want any of it. And, well, Nicholas continues to push on as much as he can as he chases after William Morris. And Morris will look in his rearview mirrors and noticing that there's a black and white Red Bull Porsche that has been closing quite ominously lap after lap, and it is almost there to its target destination as they head down towards turn number 5. And, well, meanwhile, Cochet and Edwards still there, but noting again that Edwards has now closed up a little bit. The gap back down to what was half a second there on the approach to the apex at turn number 5. Different braking approaches and the concertina effect, however, we will see that gap open up and close back all the way through the entirety of the lap. So we really only get a good idea when we get to the end of each sector, and when we come to that start-finish line, whether that gap is actually closing or whether it's open or staying the same. But going back to the full process we've said about with Seldorf and Flana, well, as we bring up on screen very shortly the time delta between the two of them over what has been the last few laps, and we'll get to see a perspective, and there it is on the screen. From lap number 3 to lap number 8, we saw it peak at lap number 5 all the way out towards the best part of 2.2 seconds, but the gap has been brought back down somewhat to 1.7 seconds since then. So Flana is trying to close it, but Seldorf in turn could be backing off the throttle slightly and deciding just to manage this race, knowing that he's got an advantage and he doesn't need to overdo it. Both drivers will have their different perspectives and strategies in order to try and run this race, and that's what makes it intriguing here, because these two are in a bit of a world of their own at the moment, with a 2.3 second gap to Axel Begerman behind. Begerman is matching his rivals for pace, albeit at last lap he was a tenth slow, but on average he has been matching, so he's not out of it. He's still a third-party player, but as our drivers come down the start-finish straight, well, here comes Alexandre Nicolas looking for the move on William Morris, and well, coming through turn number 1, Morris just holds his line. We jump aboard with Nicolas, looking to move up into P6. He comes on the brakes, goes all in there into turn number 3, and well, Morris in the end, I don't think he expected it to come that quickly, but Nicolas has got other ideas and takes that place immediately. A lovely move, and all on the brakes there, just showing how much you can modulate those brakes in order to get it stopped in time. But here comes Morris looking back. He thinks about it, looking to the outside of the inside of that Corvette into turn 5, but I think right now and just trying to go Nicolas into a mistake. But the thing about this man is he's not going to make mistakes at the pace he's running at, as he roars his way up through turn 6 in towards 7. Now the downhill double right into Samsung at 8. Well, this is where Nicolas will start to gain a little bit of time and try to open up as further back. We look to the Ferrari of Andrea Villela as he comes out of the turn 5 hairpin in the toe there of Mario Gonzalez Martinez, and as they head over the crest of 6 with this battle for P10, last of the top 10 positions, well, the Ferrari continue to try to stay close, and you can see the delta there between the two drivers, very little in it as we ride on board, looking out the dashboard of the number 12 car in P11 as he roars his way up the hill and in towards Portimão corner at turns 10 and 11. Coming onto the brakes there, Martinez being very haphazardous in the position of the car. Big lock up there on the front right brake, but notice how Martinez brought the car from one side to the other, really trying to find a good balance of the car in terms of positioning it into turns, and he's not happy with his approach out of 9 into 10, and Villela, meanwhile, just simply staying behind and trying to nurse the car around through the corners here to keep himself nice and close, keep those tyre temperatures down and look for a potential move. As they come out of turn number 14 in towards 15, we ride on board and listen in. A big lift there, and also hit the limiter slightly, I think, as he made his way through the corner. Well, definitely a lift in order to get rid of the dirty air effect in terms of that understeer over the front end of the car. So for Villela, a bit of a worry there, and I think worried about the fact that if he runs in clear air, he'll be quite fast, but if he runs in the dirty air of another driver, he may just struggle a little bit in order to get the rotation, and that might be a sign of the setup that's being run. This circuit being one is a medium to high downforce circuit, normally you want to lean into a high downforce approach. Martinez once again with a big lock up there into turn number 3, albeit only on the front right brake, not both of the front brakes. It's not going to be too punishing, but Martinez really struggling. It's a good run for Villela out of turn number 4. Surely this is going to move down towards what will be 5 and a move on the inside as he looks all in here. Martinez has got nowhere to defend other than hold the outside, look for a cutback, but it's a big error there from Villela, who loses the rear of the car just a little bit too eager on the downshift into the braking zone, and in the end the car just cuts slightly loose. But meanwhile, whilst all this has been happening, we look back to P4, and this is Thomas Corchet with Colton Edwards right behind, and Alexandre Nicholas closed up very rapidly as they make the way through turn number 12 in towards 13 and 14. And well, here we can see Corchet right now has got a long queue of cars behind him as we look back from the rear of the C8R Corvette, and well, Corchet right now has got to be thinking to himself, with if that's Nicholas behind, surely I can get the 2 Porsches to fight. And well, that's one way to think about it, but the problem is if you give too much leverage to Alexandre Nicholas, if you try and back Edwards into him, I get the feeling that Nicholas will be thinking about a 2-for-1 special. You see a flash of the lights there from Alexandre Nicholas, I think trying to distract rather than sending Morse code messages, although I don't know what that is Morse code for, and what will be the in excess of 150 miles an hour down the Portimão straight. But I can tell you Nicholas thinking about it, in fact looking to the inside into 2, can't quite find it. When he dives to the inside into 3, he's going to go for it here, and well, in the end the doors slammed firmly in his face. Colton Edwards decides, you know what, you're not close enough, I'm not just going to give it to you. And well, Colton Edwards right now making sure to play what is a defensive offense, but as they come down towards 5, what this will do is take a little bit of pressure off of Corchet in the number 9 Corvette. In 9 now, he doesn't have to worry as much, but Nicholas looks up the inside, and in the end Edwards pulls the steering wheel to the right slightly. See Nicholas going down the dive, it's going to be too wide on the exit, a hairpin. They make the way in towards turn number 6 over the crest here. It's too wide, a bit of elbows out between them. Edwards is not just going to roll over and let Nicholas go, and well, the number 7 driver there played it absolutely fair, and I think Alexandre Nicholas now realising that if he wants to get through in the number 1 car, he's going to have to go for it as he flashes lights. But I get the thing Colton Edwards is saying, I don't know what you're flashing for, in the simple reason we're going racing right now. As they come to 10 and 11, well, you can see that Corchet not really able to pull away as Nicholas getting a very strong run out of 10 and 11. You can see the differences in lines, and that Edwards just goes very deep in 10 and cost him all the approach speed to the apex of 11, but he's able to put the car right where Nicholas does not want to see it, as he goes a little bit deep as well through 13 into 14, but he's staying there at the moment. And now as he gradually brings the car around, again running deep off a turn number 14, and I get the feeling that tyre temperatures might be starting to spike a little bit for Colton Edwards' Porsche in that number 7, and will ruin his way through the right-hander. And Nicholas right now staying right glued to his rear, and this is going to be the drag race of a lifetime as they make the way down the start-finish straight in towards turn number 1. Nicholas peels out to the inside here, and Edwards, I think, even with the distant toe over the back of Corchet's car, this is only going to end up one way, and that's going to be Nicholas on the inside. He takes the centre ground, and in the end, Edwards backs off there, lets it go. He'll come back at him into turn number 3 potentially, but he's got a long way to come back from. And in the end, Alexandre Nicholas moves up into P5, but it wasn't made easy for the charging driver in the fact that he had to absolutely give it everything in order to make that move happen. So as they come down towards turn number 5, well, these drivers making the way onto that towards that braking zone, and well, you can see now the next target for Alexandre Nicholas will be Thomas Corchet, and Corchet then has a 4-second gap to Axel Bergerman, and well, these 3 drivers all trying to make a little bit of ground. As meanwhile into the pit side, look out my commentary booth window, is the Ferrari of Villela, who's coming in, and I suspect that will be for the mandated fuel pit stop, given the fact that we are 20 or so minutes in when he did come into the pit lane. Well, that does mean the pit window is open. It's normally open between what is about the 18th minute of the race being completed and the 29th to 30th minute, depending on the circuit and fuel saving being applied. But let's come away from the strategy to talk about the here and now. Alexandre Nicholas all over the back of Thomas Corchet as Corchet makes his way up into turn number 13, onto the brakes goes the Corvette driver. Nicholas all over the back of him as they come out of the first hairpin, then to the second one. Will Nicholas look up the inside? No, he won't here. Instead, what he'll do, he'll get the better run out of 14, follow Corchet all the way around into 15, and then use the overspeed from the slipstream in order to look for the move as Corchet rolls through turn number 15 now over that drop there. And as a driver, I can tell you, unsettles you when you make your way over there for the first time. And Corchet peels to the inside, goes defensive here as they make the way down. He's going to pin it to the inside all the way, and that Porsche Porsche, whilst it's had the toe, it hasn't had the best of runs. It's going to be too wide into the apex at one by looks of things, and well, in the end, Cochet's going to stick in all the way, but it's going to be Nicholas and goes out the outside, but here comes Edwards. Edwards decides, right, if Cochet's going to go that side, might as well look for it, and here comes Edwards. In fact, Cochet looking up the inside, there's contact between Alexandre Nicholas and Williams Thomas Cochet, and Cochet went all in, and I get the feeling there that Nicholas is not going to be too happy, as now here comes Colton Edwards. They're all getting very fiery and feisty, and they don't want to let him through, and well, they want to go racing, but I get the feeling that Cochet may get a word from Nicholas after the race, given the fact he really did lunge it back in, and well, there you can see Edwards immediately lets the car run deep at turn number 5 to get the better exit, but also to make the point to Nicholas, which is, look, if you've got a problem, it's not with me, as they come down in towards turns 7 and 8, but this is brilliant battling, and right now, I can tell you that there's going to be a little bit of red being seen from Alexandre Nicholas, and also Thomas Cochet, and Cochet just not happy to see that Porsche making its way up through the order, and he wants to put a stop to it wherever he can. William Morris, meanwhile, he's just sat at the back of all this, watching it all play out, and I can imagine he might be running his hands together in glee, albeit he'd be having to do it in his head, not physically, because otherwise he might go straight onto the corner, and in his mind it might be, keep it up, lads, if you all keep fighting like this, I might take not just one, not just two, but 3 places off of all of you, as they head out of turn number 13 in towards 14, and whilst all that's happening, well, meanwhile, David Kessler and Michael Mathias are not too far behind. You can see it briefly in the rear of the picture. That's Kessler in what's the third of the Corvettes. They are all closing up. But here we go once again, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers make the way through turn number 15 on to another lap, and will pit stops will be coming up soon. Surely so they've got to be considered as well about diving into the pits in order to get out of this fight. Cochet puts the car in the middle of the road, and Nicholas is going to be pinned all the way to the wall. My good lord, that was very close to tears as they make the way down. A flash of lights there from Edwards, and well, I think that's trying to get into the heads of both drivers, but in the end, Nicholas does get it done, goes very deep. Thomas Cochet comes right back at him here, out of 2. He's going to go for it, and Thomas Cochet is absolutely attacking, a big lock up on the front right. Meanwhile, Nicholas has to leave the steering open, and Cochet absolutely holding his ground every single corner, and so this, I think, going beyond the lines, but right now, as they make the way down, well, Nicholas looking up the inside, Cochet immediately pulls, and he's going to pull all the way to the inside here, the pair of them now, pin each other all the way to the apex. This is getting very, very temperamental, and meanwhile, if you're Colton Edwards just watching this as we jump on board with what is the number 7 Porsche, well, Ryan finds himself just in the queue here, waiting to try and have his turn. As you can see, the Nicholas looking up the inside through Samson corner at turn number 8. Cochet holds the outside. Nicholas once again looking to the inside, back into the toe immediately now as they make the way through turn number 9. It's Alexandre Nicholas all over Cochet as they make the way over the rise, and as they do, well, we look to the exterior cameras, and as we do, well, oh my goodness, and off of camera, Alexandre Nicholas has gone into the gravel. I suspect that may have been aided. We're going to have to get a quick replay of that, given our onboard camera didn't quite give us the picture that we wanted, and well, thankfully, we can get an instant replay of what exactly's happened. Well, this was in the run then in towards turns 10 and 11, and Nicholas up the inside, and contact between the two, and went all in on the lunge to the inside. He got there to the apex, to be fair, to Alexandre Nicholas in towards turn number 11, but Thomas Cochet turning in and finding the Porsche at the worst possible moment and sending Alexandre Nicholas in to the gravel. And well, I definitely think there will be words between the two drivers after this race, and well, hopefully they'll be able to keep it civil with regards to them, because at the end of the day, well, that's what the racing is all about. But as they make the way onwards, we return to your live pictures with all of that perks Alexandre Nicholas down to P9 with a damaged Porsche as well, and tyres that will definitely have seen some significantly greater wear than they would have liked to have seen at this point in time. And Thomas Cochet and all of that has actually been passed by Colton Edwards, and Edwards made his way through. And well, how exactly did Colton Edwards make that progress? Well, we'll get a quick replay to explain. And this was in the aftermath of it all, so Edwards in the end just seeing what happened, and well, Cochet in the end outside on turn number 11, and Edwards just simply going around the outside and through 12 up into 13, and Colton Edwards there, I think, will be breathing a big sigh of relief at the fact he was able to make that pass. So he's picked up 2 places for the price of 1, and well, meanwhile, David Kessler has picked up 1 place, as has William Morris, but the Corvette army now started to come on strong here, running P5, P6, P7, and well, let's see how far they can go as we continue to go deeper and deeper, and we're now into the second half of this race. We've got into the pits at the moment, Frederick Bresendorf, and we see him making his way down pit lane as he does so from P13, and I suspect he's going to pit back in P14, given that he's got Andre Villela making his way up through, and there goes the Ferrari driver, the first to take his strategic pit stop to put the fuel in the car, and well, I wonder how long it's going to be before we see more pit stops coming. Well, we look to our leader here. Does he peel off into the pit lane? No, he doesn't, so Francis Seldorf just simply stays out of the circuit, as does Peter Flanner. The gap between these two, a quick update, it has gone back up to 2.5 seconds, and in terms of the relative relative lap time history between the two drivers over what has been the last 6 laps. Well, in fact, do my mathematics correctly, that's the last 5 laps, and I can now count. Well, we can see that Flanner really losing out minus on lap 15 where he gained 3 tenths, but the natural flow of proceedings has been that Seldorf does seem to have the upper hand on pace, at least in this stint of the race. And Peter Flanner, meanwhile, well, you can see the gap there between himself and Begerman in terms of the lap times, and Begerman just not on the pace of Flanner nor Seldorf, and these top 3 now starting to space out. Meanwhile, into the pit lane is Colton Edwards, as we see Bressendorf come out the pit lane a lap down effectively, but Colton Edwards there just being serviced. Fuel goes in the car, and well, as it does, we look to Alexandre Nicholas, who has recently found his way back ahead of Michael Matthias. A very frustrated Alexandre Nicholas, I suspect, as they come down into the hairpin and as they make the way for a left-hander. Well, Matthias all right now on the back of Nicholas, simply used him, I think, as a bit of a pace car here in order to be able to find the best possible lap time and look to work with him to carve their way through the field. Again, these two drivers definitely have quite a bit of pace in them, and well, the number 1 door number driver and the number 2 door number driver, which for the uninitiated, door numbers in official iRacing races denote the drivers with the highest I rating. So number 1 is the highest I rating in the lobby, all the way down to what's the bottom number of the lobby, which is the lowest rated driver. And well, these two being the number 1 and 2 right now, they'll definitely be looking to finish inside that top 5 by the end of it, if not even higher. But there's still a way to go, as we have got the best part of 17 minutes plus the final lap of racing. But for both what is Nicholas and Matthias, their next target will be at Kessler, and Kessler just there as it's getting very close to Seldorf and Flanner both into the pit lane off screen. Looking at my content booth window, they've made the way down, as is Begerman, and well, it could be pit stop season right now as the drivers make the way around. And David Kessler, well, he's got a lot of Porsches right behind him, very eager to make a bit of ingress into this race, and now we will see who has been saving enough fuel in order to go the distance as they all come down here. Nobody's going any longer. A bit of a lock up there, a bit of a tap to the rear of Kessler's car from what was none other than Matthias, I believe. Well, in fact, not Matthias, my apologies. Matthias has gone on another lap. He's decided he's saved enough fuel. He'll go even deeper. That was a tap to the rear of Kessler's car for Nicholas by looks things based that camera angle. But Michael Matthias will lead at least 1 lap of the race, as he's going to go even longer. He is going to do 18 laps on that opening tank of fuel, whereas everybody else has done anywhere between what has been 14 to 17 laps. But with all of this complete in terms of the pit stops, the ones that have been finished, there's Seldorf, there's Flanner. The gap between them now down to what is 1.9 seconds, so 6 tenths gained by Flanner in the pit stops proceedings. And Axel Begerman, meanwhile, still the best part there of what is 5.5 seconds behind, albeit Begerman having the fastest pit stop of the trio there by a considerable margin, so he has gained a little bit. And then Colton Edwards, who decided to pit earlier, well, he's come out in P5, effective P4, we understand it, given Matthias is out there as your leader yet to pit. So Colton Edwards gaining and putting himself right ahead of William Morris and Alexandre Nicholas. And well, you can see Colton Edwards using a lot of fuel, in fact, because that gap between himself and Morris has actually come down as he roars his way up towards what will be turn number 5. And for Edwards, that gap now is very close, and I think he might be worried about the fact that he's got a lot of cars getting quite close behind him. We'll have to wait and see, as Morris and Nicholas still all over the back of Edwards. But Alexandre Nicholas is going to have a think about it here, because he has been bruised twice now in trying to make moves on drivers to get himself into the top 5. And well, the one name he won't be worried about is Thomas Corchet, who's down in P9. Corchet having a longer pit stop, I believe, to do some repair work on the car and perhaps also put some extra fuel in. But you can see Nicholas there taking a peek to the inside through what's turn number 9 in towards turn 11. They go now really on the inside there at the corner that really caught him out when he was battling with Thomas Corchet. But this time, no such worries. He makes his way out of 11 in towards 12 through the left-hander. He goes up the ride. You can see Morris trying to come back at him here, but Nicholas just simply defending on that inside line and making sure the place becomes his own as Matthias is into the pit. Now, where will Michael Matthias come out in all of this, given the fact he pitted off of the back of this? Well, we should say all the other drivers pitted ahead of him, and they were all within what was 1 to 2 seconds of each other. So Matthias could gain here if there's been a lot of fighting. We'll have to see as they roar the way around, but Matthias right now still stationary in his pit box at the moment. He's in fact now leaving his pit box. And where is Michael Matthias in all this? Well, he's making his way down pit lane at the moment. It's going to be close here as Colton Edwards is about to come on through. So this is going to be quite close. Matthias, I think, is going to segue his way into this, and in fact he doesn't gain enough in the end. He looks to try and hold on. He does get ahead of David Kessler, but Michael Matthias doesn't quite gain enough. Alexandre Nicholas, meanwhile, it's all kicking off now. Dives up to the inside there. Colton Edwards into turn number 3, takes the place. moves up into P4, and now Alexander Nicholas has been released, but he's been released with an 18-second gap to close down to Francis Seldorf, your race leader. But his next target in P3 will be Axel Begerman, and he himself is the best part of 9 seconds up the road. So now this is going to be a Goliath task for Nicholas to do, but to be fair, if anybody can do it, it would seem to be he can, albeit given the fact we've only got what is 13 minutes plus the final lap to go, and each lap being the best part of what is just over 1.5 minutes. There's not many laps left in this race, and Nicholas is going to have to really pull some magic out here with a damaged Porsche. And remember, no fast repairs available. If they're going to do any repair work to the car, it's done in the pit lane. And Nicholas right now with a damaged car, well, I think he's having to try and nurse it and just see what he can get out of it. As all the drivers make the way into Portimão corner, well, David Kessler perhaps arguably the biggest loser with regards to all of the pit stop battling, in the fact that in P8, as he makes his way in towards turn number 13, he's come out behind Matthias, who jumped over him as a result of going longer, deciding to go for the overcut. But Kessler, to be fair, caught up in all the battling, and that's not to say the Corvette driver won't be in this all the way to the end, as he battles there with a lot of power oversteer on exit coming out 14. The car's sliding around, and well, Kessler just trying to keep it together as they roll the way through. But you can see the time lost as a result. 2 tenths being lost there just on the run through 14 into 15. And Kessler now, having started P7 9, he's going to try and get some places back if he wants to finish where he started, if not higher. But coming across the line, it won't be all too bad here, because he'll know as well he's out of the fighting in front of him, and that fighting could get a bit temperamental if the elbows do come out between the drivers, as Colton Edwards still trying to hold on, albeit you can see Alexander Nicholas breaking away. The gap 1.4 seconds already, as we say hello to Jeff Lubitsch in the YouTube chat, who's cheering on Peter Flanner. And we'll give you an update on the drivers at the front of the field in due course, ladies and gentlemen, because they are getting a little bit closer. The gap 1.7 seconds between them. We are just going to stay for a little bit longer on this battle for what is now effectively P5 as we understand it. Given that Nicholas is starting to break away, and well, Edwards under a lot of pressure here, the American driver, as he comes down in towards turn 7 and 8 through the right-hander, and William Morris is right there. And to our point from earlier about the performance of that Corvette, we are seeing once again that Corvette does start to really come alive in the second half of the race, given the fact that nobody has changed tyres in the pit lane out of our drivers inside what has been the top 12. We can definitely confirm that. They've all just put fuel in, and right now the Corvettes seem to be extracting more out the tyres the deeper they go into the race. They've just got that life available to them, and that's when Morris is now started to put that pressure on Edwards, who's doing very well. Let's not forget the number 7 Porsche doing very well to hold on to that position, but knowing a lot of tyre life has been spent, more potentially given the fighting that he had with Edwards and also Corchet in the first half of the race, and therefore now he's really on the back foot and having to defend unless he can get his rivals to fight each other or make a mistake. But as they roll off out of turn number 15, we jump aboard, looking on the dashboard here of the car of William Morris. It heads towards the end of another lap. The V8 absolutely singing as he does so, and as he roars his way across the timeline, well, gap being at 4 tenths. How much closer can he get in the draft? Not too much of money. He will gain a tenth or two here in the run down towards turn number 1. But to look for, oh my goodness, and that, I think from William Morris even called about, that was a bit of an earlier break there from Colton Edwards, who saw the lights go on a bit unexpectedly. I think Edwards might be struggling with grip on that car, and therefore Morris right now has got to know there's an opportunity here to attack. But meanwhile, speaking of opportunities to attack, ladies and gentlemen, well, we look back to the, well, we'll hold the phone a minute as we're going to see Morris here looking for a move. Edwards is struggling, and now William Morris has only got to simply look up the inside into turn 5. It sounds simple on paper. There's going to be a small run between the two of them, but William Morris takes the place of Colton Edwards, and here comes Michael Matthias. Matthias looks the inside, can't quite find it, as the two Porsches now go toe-to-toe over the crest and down into turn 7, and well, Matthias there backing off. David Kessler still watching on, but we need to look up the front of the field, because Francis Seldorf has been caught by Peter Flanner. On the last lap, Flanner gained a whole second on Seldorf, and over this lap, it looks as though Seldorf has continued to lose time. Now, is that tyre life? Is there a problem with the car, or is it something else entirely? We don't know, but meanwhile, what we do know is there is Colton Edwards coming back at William Morris into Portimão corner, so Morris is now back on the rear of the Porsche as the Corvette driver now tries to claw his way back in. Matthias is also there. It is getting very, very testy between all these drivers right now. The lead battle's starting to come into eyesight, and meanwhile, the battle for Williams P5 is absolutely electrifying. But as they roar the way on around, coming towards the end of the lap, well, meanwhile, we look to your two leaders here, and you can definitely see right now, and I think I'm going to take that phrase in the YouTube chat and coin it for a brief moment. Thank you, Katsumat, and I hope that's okay, which is that Peter is on a heater, and indeed, he is absolutely flying right now as Peter Flanner, as they head out of turn number 4. Can he get a bit closer? We'll have to see, as meanwhile, Matthias looking looking for the move here for his P6 off of Morris, trying to capitalise on Morris, having difficulty passing Edwards, gets it initially, but there, it's Morris coming back in, and you can see that Matthias opens the door at the last possible moment, and this battle for P1 continues to roll its way through, and Edwards is going to be looking at his rearview mirror and say, thank you to you two, leave me alone and go fight each other, as Matthias Indian gets a big tank slapper coming out of turn number 4, flashing lights as well. He's not too happy about that. I think he feels as though the move was forced back on him, and David Kessler just simply parks it and wins the racing line, and I think tries to send a message to Matthias, which is, no, it's okay, you keep fighting, guys, because I'm just waiting to pick up the pieces when it all goes wrong. But meanwhile, for the pieces of that, there's a big, almost mistake for what's Flano going very deep into turns 10 and 11. Collects the car back together, and well, Peter, don't make a mistake now. This could potentially be your race to win. You've got less than 10 minutes to go, and Seldorf right now absolutely struggling, it would seem, out there just to keep the pace down, as quickly as the gap opened up to 1.2 seconds, it's already been closed back down to 1.0 seconds. Also, as we can see, Flanner making his way out of turn number 14. He's got the pace there. He's just got to pick the right time to go for it, and also be ready to deal with the dirty air that's washed off the back of the lead car. As they come across the timeline, going on to lap number 23, there's still time to go in this race. There's still plenty of mileage in it. If your name is Peter Flanner, and for Francis Seldorf, he'll be looking at that clock and thinking, how quickly can the time tick away? Well, the answer is, it ticks away at 1 second per second. It's no different, but your perception of time changes when you're under pressure like this. And Francis Seldorf right now, in the number 5, could be landing an absolutely Goliath win here if he can pull it off. But Flanner is going to have something to say about that all the way to the end. Going from there, but meanwhile, down the start finish straight, we look back to the battle for P5, and here comes Matthias, who looks up the inside for P6 versus William Morris, but goes very deep, goes too deep in the tooth as they come up through the corner, rejoins, and Michael Matthias there, very eager, but I think just simply over-egging it and realising that he broke way too late for that inside line, and instead opted to let the car roll deep, and then rejoin, dropping back a position. But Kessler at this point, David Kessler's got to be thinking of that Corvette, well, they're going to keep this up, I've got to be thinking about a move soon, because otherwise I'm going to run out of time eventually, as they come down in towards turn number 5. You see the rear of the pitch has Thomas Cochet, who is closing up, and Cochet closing at a second a lap in P9. He will be on the back of this battle within 2 laps if things continue as they currently stand. As the drivers make the way deeper and deeper through this lap, we've not got long left. The light is gradually coming down. The headlights are on the cars right now. Tyre life is going to be a premium as well. So there's all this to deal with. And the drivers also potentially have the fault on their heads with regards to the fuel tanks. Have they got enough fuel to get to the end of the race and scaled on fuel capacity? Well, the short answer would be yes, given the fact I've got the pit times available to me. You can't present them on screen. What I can tell you is practically every driver inside the top 10 has pitted for about the same amount of stationary time. So they should have put enough fuel to get into the end. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of drivers trying to crawl to the end of the race. Or alternatively, have to fuel save off each other onto the final lap. And well, hopefully we don't see that, because we want to see everyone giving it absolutely 100% at this point, or as best as the car's able to, and indeed tyres, legs and arms are able to. But as we do see Kessler coming out of turn number 14 in towards 15, still there, still waiting for an opportunity to attack. We ride on board, in fact, with the number 8 driver still in his position with regards to his door number, but as he comes across the line, we'll be hoping he can get a little bit more into this battle with Matthias. The gap between the two of them being 4 tenths, as we can see Morris and Edwards off in the distance. The line of 4 cars there, all illustrating the run down the hill into turn number 1. A wonderful perspective here, riding on board of the roll cage of the driver of Kessler, and as he comes in towards the break-ins over turn number 3, they all stay as is for now, but at any moment a small mistake and it could cause this battle to erupt. And speaking of erupted battles, well, we look back to leaders, and this is Francis Seldorf, who right now has got a little bit of traffic to deal with. The lead battle here, where it's going to make its way on around the car there, and I believe that is the car of Mario Gonzalez Martinez, who steps aside respect to the blue flags. But the problem is now that Flanders very close. He's going to look for the move, surely. This time he won't go deep into turns 10 11. No, he's learned from that mistake as Peter Flanner, and instead he just decides to roll in behind Seldorf and wait for the opportunity. Well, 5 minutes left on the clock. There's not too many laps left, but he can build this up. Flanner can just simply get himself comfortable around that dirty air and wait for the right time. The best place to overtake arguably is down the start, finish straight in towards turn number 1. But will Flanner think about it? That's the question. Or will he think about something else? As both drivers sliding out of turn number 14. Seldorf there really how to try and get the car to push through the corner. Flanner meanwhile backing off. And as we ride on board here with Flanner, the gap right now, 4 attempts, they make the way to the start, finish straight. It's a long run, but how much can Flanner close up there in the number 4? Well, it's now down to 3.5 attempts. They cross the start finish line. He's getting closer and closer and closer, but he's not close enough to look for the move this time. Has to back off a little bit as there's a slight sidestep from Seldorf's car. Flanner there keeping it nice and composed, but these Porsches, they naturally will rotate with the engine being behind the driver. And as he comes through turn number 3, well, right now Flanner is staying so close as I stumble over my words there, and I do apologise as they make the way through, but Flanner absolutely attacking as much as he can. Meanwhile, further back, we're going to change of position with the fact Michael Matthias has moved ahead of William Morris for P6, and that's happened on the start-finish line straight, and Matthias now moving up the place, Morris and Kessler together, so Matthias finally making his way past the Corvette Army, and we'll quick replay to see how exactly that was done. Here it is. So the drag race down the start-finish straight there, and in the end, Morris didn't have anything to really work with. The distant toe of what was called to Edwards there would have given 1 to 2 miles an hour, but not as much as the close toe that Matthias was able to pick up, and Matthias in the end just simply getting the move done there, which he's been trying to do for the best part of the last 10 minutes. But coming back to your live pictures, with Matthias and Morris running together still in their hunt for P6 and potentially P5 of Colton Edwards. We see a big washout there from Derek Kessler, the front end not responding at all, so that tyre life going against him as he makes well through, but meanwhile carrying all the way back to the leaders. 3 minutes to go. You're looking now at Francis Seldorf, your race leader in the red and white Coca-Cola machine, and as he makes his way out of the corner and in towards turn number 15, Peter Flanner behind in the very vibrant coloured Porsche by comparison, with every colour of the rainbow there. 4/10 separates them. They have chased each other all the way through this race today. 2 more laps between them and the checkered flag, and right now Seldorf will know that Flanner is only 2 tenths away, and 2 tenths isn't much in a GTE as you head down towards turn 1 at Portimão, but it's enough to keep them alive for the time being as they make the way through the opening triple right section. Into turn 3 they go. Flanner backing off there for now, not able to get any closer, but then again, it's not about the opening corners necessarily for Flanner. He might be thinking elsewhere on the circuit. He's now just got to simply find one opportunity, and that, if he can seize it, will be enough, surely. But Seldorf is doing a very good job just simply keeping that car nicely positioned every time, and even though he's had a couple of slides here, there's been some little wobbles, nothing has perturbed him as much. He's really digging deep at this point as they make the way through 6 and into 7. Meanwhile, further back, Morris versus Matthias. Well, now it's William Morris who is the cat, and meanwhile Matthias is the mouse, and as they head out towards what will be and turn number 5, you can see here comes Morris looking for the move. Matthias simply stays his ground and puts the brakes on nice and late. Morris, they're trying to go Matthias into an error, but that's not going to happen. Matthias has seen that too many times. He's read the book of overtakes and out of the Fed, so Morris is going to have to get a little bit more inventive as they head on through. But from them, back to leaders as they come out of turn number 11 through 12. Well, Flanner's very close. He goes to the inside, looking for the move here does Peter Flanner, but in the end, Francis Seldorf says, well, no, that's not going to work. I'll just go around the outside. So Flanner trying to get Seldorf to worry there, but Seldorf not panicking under that one. It was a good attempt from Peter Flanner to go for an unconventional move up the rise in towards turn number 13, but that means now there's only 1 lap between these two of the checkered flag as we head into the 45th and final minute, and as they come across the line, it's Seldorf who leads by half a second, so Flanner knows he can't make the move down the start-finish line straight. He exhausted that by attacking into 13, but he also knows in the toe here, he'll close up very quickly. We're going to stay with these leaders all the way to the end now, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way through turns 1, 2 and 3, and as they do, well, Seldorf simply holding on as we look back from the rear of the lead Porsche in this battle. Both drivers here looking to try and take the big top step for the simple reason, and there's a huge amount of pride on the line and a lot of iRacing as well. But hold up, Flanner's going very slowly. What's happened to Flanner's car? Surely not. Surely he's not run out of fuel. He's going slowly here. Well, something's gone very wrong for Peter Flanner, and the car's crawling literally as it came into turn 4. It just suddenly lost all pace. Well, Flanner's race may be coming to a dead crawl, and Seldorf is just running off into the distance right now. It's completely unexpected, and Seldorf has absolutely got this one in the bag, surely. And I can see there in the chat the fault of no fuel, and I think we're right there with regards to there being no fuel in that car, because Flanner is just trying to get to the end. Meanwhile, still fighting, it's Morris versus Matthias in this battle for P6. These two are fighting over it as if they're racing for a race win, and well, who can blame them? They're putting on a brilliant display, and Morris back up the inside of Matthias into turn 5, but I think the Porsche driver isn't quite done as they make the way onwards towards the next set of corners. But whilst all this is happening and Matthias goes a little bit deep just up the road, Axel Begerman is under pressure here from what is Alexandre Nicholas, who's trying to get himself back onto the podium as they come through 12, but Begerman's going to go defensive. Begerman's seen very little action all race apart from on this final lap, and there's contact between the two of them, and Begerman and Nicholas both go on straight, and Begerman sends the gravel as Nicholas brings it back together. But meanwhile, one man who's avoided all the chaos, all the carnage, and he withstood all the pressure from Peter Flanner is Francis Seldorf, and as he comes to the line line, the checker flag waves, and Francis Seldorf is your winner at Portimão by what will in the end be 4.4 seconds over Peter Flanner, who does get to the checker flag despite a limited amount of fuel, and well, he manages to hold on in a valiant effort to take P2. Alexander Nicholas will take P3 in a bruised and battered Porsche racing machine, and well, the number one driver today will be ruining the carnage from earlier, as meanwhile Axel Begerman takes P4 ahead of Colton Edwards, with William Morris P6 ahead of Michael Matthias at line, David Kessler P8, Thomas Corchet P9, and then it will be a sizable amount of time before we do see the car of Andre Villela come from through to take the final top 10 spot, as he makes his way out of turn number 13 in towards 14. Well, the Ferrari driver here, 9 today, it was always going to be a bit of an uphill battle, but still, to take a P10, he'll be happy with that as he makes his way on for the last couple of corners. We have already had Mario Gonzalez Martinez finish the race a lap down in P13, and our 14th place finisher of Frederick Bressendorf has just come across the line looking out my quarantine booth window, but Villela here will take the final top 10 spot out of our 14 drivers, and then it will be to Xavier Zanjuan, who will make his way on around here in a Porsche that does seem to be just gradually making its way to the line, and well, he's the number 11 driver in this lobby, and he'll be taking P11, so he'll be pretty happy with that as he makes his way on through the final corner, and then we will just be waiting for what will be Jean-Yves Acudas to come across the line to complete this race. So we do see Xavier Zanjuan finishing the race at P11, and then it will be to Jean-Yves Aculizias finishing there P12 as he comes to line, and that concludes the race here today, ladies and gentlemen, at the Autodromo International Algarve. But my goodness, what a race. It got very, very calm at first, but then very, very temperamental in the battle to be inside the top 5, and our lead battle between Francis Seldorf and Peter Flanner in the end, all being settled by Flanner just not having enough fuel to go full attack to the very end, but doing enough to get himself to P2, and still credit where it's due. But today, Francis Seldorf seemed to be absolutely untouchable as we take a look to the race results. So the results come up on the screen for this top split race in week 7 of season 1 of 2025 for the iRacing GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT. Francis Seldorf there taking victory by 4.4 seconds over Peter Flanner. The two American drivers running an absolutely brilliant race, but Seldorf in the end just seemingly having the edge every step of the way. Alexander Nicholas, who started on pole but decided then to start the race on the pit lane, made his way all the way up to P3, but in a race definitely where there were a few knocks and scrapes along the way, and I think there might be some words exchanged between him and some of his peers, but then again, we're not going to point fingers there. They may just simply take things up with each other after the race, but still taking a P3 there in what was an absolute charge for the field, head of Axel Begerman, P4, and then we do see Colton Edwards round off the top 5 behind the German, the American there, just fending off the charge of William Morris, Michael Matthias, and David Kessler in that brilliant four-way battle for P5, but in the end it was Colton Edwards who would take the prize. Thomas Corchet, P9, ruined what could have been the Frenchman. If it weren't for that contact between himself and Alexandre Nicholas early on in the race, he could have definitely finished inside the top 3. And then we did see P10 there, Andre N. Villela, completing the run of the top 10 by the best part of 23 seconds over Xavier San Juan. And then we did see Jean-Yves Acuzilas finishing at P12, the last of our lead lap finishers, and then a lap down to 13th place finisher Mario Gonzalez Martinez, and also to Frederick Bressendorf, who rounded off our 14 car field in 14th place. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. Brilliant batting up and down the field, and whilst we only had 14 cars, sometimes there is a saying which is that it is the quality that surpasses the quantity, and we definitely saw that today with some absolutely quality racing from our low quantity number of drivers. But with that wraps up proceedings here, and well, without further ado, of course, the big question we do have is what lies next? Well, we do see a quick question there from Chris Lambeth in the YouTube chat, which is what we're using for the broadcast overlay, and this is SDK iRacing Live Timing that we're using, a product that is readily available on the internet. There's a bit of a subscription fee, but that's what we're using as the overlay, in case that helps you, Chris. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now do turn our attentions to next time. And in week 8, we make our way from Portugal back to the United States of America for the one and only Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Now, normally we have been hosting these top split broadcasts on a Friday in the 7 o'clock in the evening GMT or UTC slot. Unfortunately, we're not going to be quite available to meet that slot next week due to personal circumstances, but one thing is, rest rest assured, we will be back to cover the top split of Road Atlanta. You will be getting your fix of the ultimate roller coaster ride of road racing in the US. Just save the date. It will be on Monday, the 10th of February 2025 at the same time as we normally do it, and that will be at 7 o'clock, just on the Monday rather than the Friday. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Paul, TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit. This has been the iRacing GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT Top Split for week number 7. And until next time, have a great weekend ahead. Remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.